Hello, friends of more, friends of the management of reality. We are here with Dr. Mudar Sahran, who is the Secretary General of the Jordanian Opposition Coalition. He is a Jordanian of Palestinian origin and an academic who studies the Arab-Israeli conflict. And he is a very interesting person to talk to because his views are not what you usually expect from people in the Arab world or in the Arab Palestinian population. He's a unique individual trying to produce genuine peace in the Middle East. So I thank you for joining us, Dr. Mudar Sahran, and we're very excited to hear your views and to ask you some questions about the situation in the Middle East, and in particular, what is happening in Jordan and in the relationship between Jordan and Israel. So let me begin by asking you, first of all, what is the Jordanian Opposition Coalition that you lead?
Jordanian Opposition Coalition is a body of multiple opposition figures. Most of those opposition figures are of Palestinian heritage. What makes us unique is as much as we represent all Jordanians and the rightful demands for civil rights, we are the sole representative of the Palestinian 95%, 11.3 million Palestinian majority in Jordan.
So the Arab Palestinians in Jordan are the majority at the 95% level?
Yes, the Jordanian government and so-called think tanks in the West have been trying to minimize that, claiming that Palestinians are only 40%, 2 million people. Well, I am, an academic, career academic, and I can assure you that the documents suggest otherwise. Let's sum it up. Recently, the BBC had an interview with the King Abdullah of Jordan, in which he was basically manifesting his globalist pro-war agenda, saying that even Hamas should be left alone in Gaza, wreaking havoc, doing what they want. That's after the ceasefire. So, a very, very, very disturbed man. Nonetheless, with that story, the BBC put something in their report. They said Jordan has received 2.3 million Palestinians over the decades. So 2.3 million refugees over the decades. Even if you do the math, possibly over ChatGPT, the regular standard Jordanian growth, of particularly Palestinian population growth, 2.3 million, even if just only in 1967, you do the math and the number would add up to 85% of the population. In addition, and I am, by the way, a former U.S. Department of State employee, the U.S. Department of State, their cables, there has been some intelligence cables leaked by WikiLeaks, mainly from the U.S. Embassy in Amman, and those cables show firmly that the population is above 95% Palestinian. At least, 85% Palestinian, and the BBC suggests 95. Sorry, I stand corrected here. So they say that the number of Palestinians registered in 2006, number of Palestinians registered with the UNRWA in Jordan are almost 2 million people, and those make up barely 50% of the original Palestinian population. So there were 4 million Palestinians in Jordan in 2006. That's 20 years ago. And the entire Jordanian population was 5.8 million, of which 500,000 Iraqis, of which 300,000 foreign residents, of which 400,000 foreign workers. So basically, the Palestinians are the vast majority. And this pops the question. People are always, the so-called mainstream media and establishment people, they're always, attacking Israel over the civil rights for the Palestinians. Well, the biggest oppressor of Palestinians in the world is the Hashemite apartheid system in Jordan, not in Israel. So why would they really feel very, very concerned about Palestinians in Gaza, Palestinians in the West Bank, and give zero interest to the Palestinian majority who are living under an apartheid system only surpassed possibly by Nazi Germany? You will not believe, sir. You will not believe the amount of oppression, the amount of devastation, ostracizing, disenfranchising, humiliation that's being projected into the Palestinian majority in Jordan through this king and his regime.
Sorry for interrupt. Yes. The sound is pretty bad. Are you good internet connection, Mudar?
The connection is wonderful, but let me try and change.
I think it's your microphone.
I think it's the entire webcam.
It sounds as if your microphone is not properly connected.
Okay, so I've disconnected the microphone. I'm using the phone itself. Does this sound better?
Yeah. Far better, yeah.
Yeah, but we can't see you now.
Hold on. Okay, now that you can see me, do I sound the same?
No, it sounds better.
Try to speak again.
Okay. Okay, let's do this again. Okay, you cut the video. Answering the question about the Jordanian Opposition Coalition. The Jordanian Opposition Coalition represents a group of opposition figures, mainly of Palestinian heritage. We try and we always strive to represent all Jordanians. Nonetheless, we are representative of the 95% Palestinian majority in Jordan, as well as the minority of all backgrounds. And before you pop the question of how many Palestinians are in Jordan, we have done, and as an academic, I know that we have done extensive work proving the actual population of Jordan using U.S. Embassy Amman and U.S. Department of State cable. And by the way, I'm an ex-U.S. Department of State employee. The cables prove the percentage in the hovering between 90% and 85%, while a recent report by the BBC, not exactly my favorite channel, but they mistakenly dropped that the number is actually way, pushing towards 95%. So that said, this majority is the most oppressed Palestinian population, and definitely the most oppressed population in the Middle East. The oppression is not exactly in Gaza or the West Bank. As much as this might make the Free Palestine Western movements cry, I hate to tell them that if you care for the Palestinians, come and check it out. Come and check out Jordan. Have a peek. See what we have to go through. Because one thing that the Israelis could do anything to defend themselves. One thing they will do is not attack people's honor. In the Middle East, and you are de facto Middle Eastern, In the Middle East, the biggest and most sensitive issue that people live with is their own personal honor. You don't mention the women. You don't attack the women's chastity or the women's images. Just log into the social media, the government-controlled social media in Jordan. You'll see any given day, like just as we speak, live broadcasts calling Palestinians' name, accusing the women of being whores, accusing Palestinian women of being, promiscuous. This is all systematic. This is all systematic. This is all done by the king himself because he controlled the social media. So this is how bad it is in Jordan.
So if I understand you correctly, then, so we have perhaps as many as 95% of the population of Jordan are Palestinian, but this very large majority then doesn't have any participation in the government. Is that correct?
Not only the government, speaking academic to an academic. Okay, let's do some common sense. I stumbled upon a document from the British ambassador to Jordan in the year 1956. I repeat, 1956, in which he said that and this is, this is shocking for most of you, and I'm gonna possibly tweet that document. He said that the Palestinians in Jordan and the West Bank, then West Bank and today's Jordan, were one country. And this is the British ambassador talking, reporting to London, that the Palestinians have an affinity for Britain. They like the fact that Britain is present, that they are passive and uninterested when it comes to Israel / fighting Israel. And the only problem is the disenfranchisement by the government and the East Bankers, the so-called, what you guys call Bedouins, and the fact that they control all government jobs, and the fact that they, overtake the economy to benefit themselves over the West Bank. This was in 1956. I repeat, 1956. Fast forward, a report by the U.S. U.S. Embassy in Amman, a report in 2006 named The Grand Bargain. You can check it out on WikiLeaks. It's a very interesting cable. It says that the embassy, all the Palestinians they spoke to, were not interested in the so-called right of return. They were interested in achieving civil rights in Jordan, which they have none. And they said that only the East Bankers, quote unquote, were the ones interested in the right of return. And here we are. So 1956, 2006, and now 2026. Our biggest problems is the Hashemite regime. You need to have, a bird's eye view to see what's really happening. And you can call me arrogant. I wouldn't have a problem being called that. Most of the so-called analysts and experts you have in Western television, they don't know jack. They look at the surface, they read what's in the news, and some of them, big names, they've made millions being so-called experts. They don't know jack. They don't know anything.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Some of the names are shocking. I've spoken to some of them. All the expertise they have in Jordan is they went to Jordan twice, during which they met with the king. Oh, really?
All right. So, tell us what is the strength in Jordan of your Jordanian opposition coalition?
Okay.
How strong is it in Jordan?
The strength of Jordan, our strength of Jordan, by the reaction. I have been under a ruthless campaign of defamation since 2017 by an Arab Israeli journalist who is connected openly to Jordan, who holds a Jordanian citizenship, has become naturalized as Israeli in 1993, I believe, 1992, was born a Jordanian. This guy has been attacking me along with his apparatus ruthlessly since 2017. I've had all the usual suspects attacking me. I've had Wikipedia.
What is this guy's name? This
Khalid Abu Tuaime, a clown known by Khalid Abu Tuaime. That said, okay, I don't care for him. And I told him once, through email, you can do whatever you want. You're not going to change anything. I don't have, I'm not exactly in love with journalists. That's something Trump and I have in common. But I definitely, in his particular case, he could talk all he wants. He wasn't able to stop me. I don't care for him. I don't care for the people he hires. But this is what I care for. Why would the Hashemite regime hire this guy? Recruit this guy to attack me ruthlessly. Go to Twitter. Look up Twitter at Mudar_Zaran and at Khalid Abu Tuaime. You will see how many times he's been attacking me ruthlessly, obsessively, saying that we don't exist, saying that I don't have a group. If I don't have a group, why is the Hashemite media, the Jordanian media, is always attacking me? Why would they even bother? Why was I sentenced to life in prison? Why was I indicted to 4 crimes in the Jordanian State Security Court, which is a military court? Why am I being defamed? Why my wife is being called names and being attacked by the Hashemite regime of Jordan? Why my kids are attacked? Why is the British government providing me security Why am I always on television despite the attacks, the campaign against me? Why would Sean Hannity call me the leader of the Palestinians in Jordan? You can watch my interview with him. Why all the decision makers who matter in Jerusalem, London, and Washington know me by name, and I speak personally to a lot of them. I don't care what people say. One thing you got to learn, if you are going against the current, if you're doing what's right, you will be defamed, and you have to learn to not to ignore those idiots, those meshogas, because they are worthless. I mean, seriously, Khalid Abu Tuaimi, other names, what could he do? Could he affect the decisions of the president of the United States or the prime minister of Israel? Seriously? I wouldn't bother. This guy for me is like entertainment. He's a clown. It's not only him. It's not only him. The issue is this is the biggest, disappointing thing. Many Jews have sold out to the haters in exchange of benefits. Sorry, if this is going to piss off a lot of people. That's fine. Many will choose to, appease their own haters, their own tormentors for benefits. And some of those are the so-called experts, so-called journalists. It's shameful.
Yep. Well, we are in agreement there. So what I'm interested in understanding better, what is the relationship of the Jordanian monarchy to the Muslim Brotherhood?
Okay, I can quote King Hussein, the late King Hussein. He said, the Muslim Brotherhood is the regime's own political party. This is how it goes. The regime has recently announced that they have, quote unquote, banned the Muslim Brotherhood. This is in response to a lobbying campaign my group and I have launched in Washington since March 2025. You can look up my article at the American Thinker. It's called President Trump Must Designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a Terror Organization. Thank God we have been successful. Thank God we have a very decent president in the White House who really wants to end trouble and bring global peace. And this is why he wants the Muslim Brotherhood out. That we were successful at that regard, and also we were definitely, have a receptive administration.
Let me see if I understood you. Hold on, I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. So you're saying U.S. President Donald Trump wants the Muslim Brotherhood out of Jordan?
Yes. President Donald Trump signed an executive order in November ordering the designation of the Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan, Egypt, and Lebanon as terror organizations. And the U.S. Department of...
Hold on. I just want the entire position of the Trump administration clarified for the people who are listening to us. So the U.S. government has designated the Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan, where else? In Egypt and
Lebanon.
And in Lebanon as a terrorist organization. Now, my next question is, has the U.S. government designated the Muslim Brotherhood in Qatar as a terrorist organization?
No.
Why not?
Because they've designated the most dangerous. This is the argument I have been screaming off the rooftops for 2 decades now, telling them the most dangerous of all Muslim Brotherhood groups are the one in Jordan. The Jordanian Muslim Brotherhood controls the global Muslim Brotherhood organization.
Right, but is there really any question that the Muslim Brotherhood in Qatar are terrorists? I mean, these are the people. Qatar is the state that has been funding Hamas together with Iran, and they have co-responsibility for the October 7th massacre. So, if Donald Trump is really interested in opposing the Muslim Brotherhood, why is he protecting the Muslim Brotherhood in Qatar? Because he just extended NATO level protection to Qatar and the most important military base overseas.
Because and listen to me carefully, read my lips. There is no Muslim Brotherhood group in Qatar. There is no political party in Qatar run Qataris called the Muslim Brotherhood. Qatar bans all kinds of political movement. The Muslim Brotherhood in Qatar are all Jordanian nationals. Al Jazeera run from the top to the bottom by
I'm sorry.
Jordanian.
Are you saying are you saying that Qatar is?
Al Jazeera, run by Jordanian Muslim Brotherhood members. I can give you the names. All the directors of Al Jazeera until recently, from its inception until today, until recently, they've appointed a Qatari. They were Jordanian Muslim Brotherhood member, like Abu Hilale, Waddah Khanfar, and another guy. They were all Muslim Brotherhood members. I went to Al Jazeera. I was interviewed by Al Jazeera a couple of times. I went inside Al Jazeera's office when they were considering me for a job 2 decades ago, and I've seen everybody was Jordanian Muslim Brotherhood member. All the key members of the Muslim Brotherhood group, including the terror group Khalid Mish'al and others. People must realize that Hamas is, quote unquote, the Palestine chapter of the Jordanian Muslim Brotherhood. So Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood of Jordan. Those are also in Qatar, and they're all Jordanians. Khalid Mish'al, you name a lot of them. I mean, there's one gentleman by the name of Azzam al-Tamimi, Professor Azzam al-Tamimi. He's a Briton Jordanian. He's openly a member of the Jordanian Muslim Brotherhood. He wrote a book in the UK, and what it's titled? Hamas from the Inside. So the guy admits that he's seen Hamas from the inside. Qatar is just an actor, barely an operative. The head of the snake is in Jordan. This is how it goes.
So the head of the snake is in Jordan, but clearly if Al Jazeera is being run by Jordanian members of the Muslim Brotherhood, then Qatar is obviously allied with the Muslim Brotherhood because Al Jazeera is based in Qatar. It is the property of the Al Thani family that rules Qatar. So
Al Jazeera.
Let me ask my question. It seems to me that it would be a reasonable statement to say that Qatar is within the Muslim Brotherhood network of influence. So why would the U.S. government, why would Donald Trump be protecting Qatar if they are opponents of the Muslim Brotherhood?
Okay, you asked, you deserve an answer. Okay? First of all, we need to get back to the Muslim Brotherhood because the biggest problem is Jordan's Muslim Brotherhood, but we'll do that later. Answer your question. Trump is not protecting Qatar. Witkoff is not receiving money from Qatar. Kushner is not being bribed by Qatar. I say this with authority because I have access to where let's say the average person couldn't really look inside the Middle East. That's number one.
Hold on. Just on the first point, I just want to be clear. You're saying Donald Trump is not protecting Qatar. Are you saying?
No, he's not.
Are you saying Donald Trump did not publicly announce NATO-level protection for Qatar?
You need to listen to me. Trump only offered that after Qatar was hit by Israeli jets, Israeli F-16s.
Yeah, he didn't like that.
I'm not going to comment on that. After Qatar got hit, Qatar got the message.
You're not going to comment on my question? My question is whether it is true or false that Donald Trump is protecting Qatar. Trump announced NATO-level protection for Qatar.
Yes, he is. Yes, but only after Qatar had the butts kicked.
So what?
You think the American base in Qatar wasn't able to stop Israeli F-16s from attacking? The most secure aerial protection system in the Middle East is an Al Udeid American base. They saw the F-16s coming half an hour before they arrived.
All right, so
Trump allowed it to happen. Let me finish, please. Trump allowed it to happen. The Qataris got their butts kicked. They learned the lesson the heavy way, and they came back crying to President Trump. Let me say this openly and straight. The Qataris have changed most of their ways, particularly direct financing to Hamas. The Qataris have lowered the tone of their Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera was doing footwork on behalf of the Muslim Brotherhood, even intelligence work on behalf of them. And I can give some really, really ridiculous example of how far did they go. Qatar is playing ball. What they have left is usually, playing with the anti-Semitism card, which is not exactly a problem compared to financing terror groups in Afghanistan, in Jordan, in Gaza, and elsewhere. Why is he protecting Qatar? Why is he protecting Qatar? Because, and this is information, they cried to him that the reason we're playing that game with Iran and the reason we're being so anti-US, anti-Israel is because the quote unquote, we were threatened by being overtaken and invaded by our neighbors, and the US did nothing. So he told them, no problem if you want that escalation, which is basically restating the facts. Al Udeid, the air base is still there. Nothing has changed. The only difference is Trump told the hostile people around Qatar to back off. In reality, Qatar is not the main problem. Qatar is a problem. But Qatar, most of what Qatar has done was simply responding to the real troublemakers in Washington. The Bush administration oversaw all that Al Jazeera did and didn't do anything about it. The Bush administration had all the Hamas members located 2 to 3 miles away from Al Udeid in Al Wajba area, a fancy upper class neighborhood. Let me just ask you a little question. Remember when Bush Senior, baby Bush, W, when after 9/11, he started going after Muslims in the U.S. Muslim would have a drink and driving misdemeanor. They'll come and arrest him and deport him. He was deporting Muslims left and right, like crazy, from the United States. At the same time, Qatar, and not only that, the United States, the CIA operated kidnappings of Islamic terrorists from Germany, from Italy, and from JFK Airport by a Canadian who was suspected of being an Islamist. They kidnapped him right at the airport, returned him to Syria to get tortured. This is what the CIA did. Would it make any sense to you that the CIA would go that length to catch terrorists while Hamas leaders were just based very, very close to the largest US base in the Middle East in Qatar, Al Udeid? They were based there at the same time. They could have sent a couple of Humvees to arrest them. Why would they not arrest them? There has been a policy by multiple US administrations, particularly the Bush administration and the Obama administration, to stir chaos, prop up Islamic terrorism, prop up Islamists, empower the Muslim Brotherhood. Again, when baby Bush was deporting Muslim and Arab falafel stand workers from New York, he was receiving the heads of care right at the White House. Google their pictures. Same went for Obama. When President Trump said that Obama and Hillary created ISIS, he wasn't joking. The evidence is all over the place and we can speak about it. The tolerance, propping up, empowerment of Islamism, radical Islam, opening the floodgates of Islamic and radical Islamic immigration to Europe, the empowerment of people like Ilhan Omar, the empowerment of the Somali community in Minnesota. This is all was done by design. And people say those politicians are stupid and suicidal. No, they're not stupid. They definitely smarter than most people you see, and they definitely have gone to much better schools than the rest of us. In reality, they know exactly what they're doing. Order through chaos, control, weakening the population. And this is why anti-Semitism is on the rise. I can't say it is a conspiracy, but I can say that, Jews being a very effective and, element of Tichon Ha'olam, for those who don't know what the word means, technizing or creating the world. Jews have produced so much. This is a fact. They're some of the most naturally intelligent people. That said, when you go after them with anti-Semitism in the West, You are depriving the West, nullifying the West of its power with those Jewish minds. This has been the same kind of attack on many other people. The chaos. This is why when Trump, and I say this with authority, when multiple CIA officers and army generals approached President Trump in 2015 and asked him to run on behalf of patriots in America, they made the best bet they could have done. This is a fact. A retired CIA officer has acknowledged it. The problem comes from within. A Russian proverb goes, a fish rots right from its head, starting at its head. The problem is in Washington. The problem is in London. The problem is in those globalists, even in Jerusalem. And now
Okay,
Trump
so
is...
can I attempt to, I'd like to paraphrase what I think I've been hearing just to make sure I understood you. So you are saying that successive U.S. administrations have been supporting the growth of jihadi Islam, and in particular, they have been supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. Did I hear you correctly?
Exactly.
Okay, so my follow-up question would then be, and I agree with you, but if we agree that the U.S. governments have been doing this, isn't Trump just continuing that policy by protecting Qatar?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay, let me ask you a bunch of questions just to see exactly where we agree and disagree. Because what I see in 2025 is that Trump stopped the Israelis when they were vanquishing Hezbollah in Lebanon. He stopped them when they were liberating Syria. He stopped them when they were about to destroy the Ayatollahs in Iran. He stopped them right when they were going to give Hamas the coup de grace in Gaza. It seems to me he's been protecting the Islamists left and right, and he is protecting Qatar.
Okay, the biggest problem, I repeat a million times, and we should start talking about that. The biggest problem, Islamist source, the powerhouse of Islamism in the world, not in the Middle East, is Jordan. Bin Laden was a frequent visitor to Jordan. You start with Jordan. He cannot go after all those countries at one time. He started with the worst. That said, let's go back to your questions. One, President Trump did not bail out the Ayatollahs in Iran. Look at what he's doing to them right now. He aided and authorized...
He's doing nothing to them right now. He's doing absolutely nothing. He's mobilized the most absurd arguments in order to rationalize doing nothing. He's done nothing. What has he done? Look what he did. In the 12th Day War, Trump went into the war so that he could stop the Israelis. He dropped a few bombs and then he said, that's it, ceasefire. Listen, when one guy is when Tom is beating the crap out of Joe and somebody comes in to stop the fight, he's protecting Joe. He's protecting the guy who's getting the crap beat out of him. And this is what happened in the 12th Day War. Israel was beating the crap out of Iran, and Trump came in to stop the war. So he protected the Ayatollahs. And now he's mobilizing whatever argument he can to justify doing nothing to help the Iranians who are being massacred by the Ayatollahs.
Okay. Do you have first-hand information on that 12-day war?
Yes, Trump's declarations. Trump has publicly said, look, when the protests started, Trump said in public that if the Ayatollahs started shooting on the Iranian people, he would start shooting on the Ayatollahs. He made that threat public. Then, when the Ayatollahs started shooting on the Iranians and announced a bunch of executions, which was Trump's red line for moving, Trump said, oh, but the Ayatollahs told me that they're not going to be executing people anymore, so I'm not going to move. And while he was saying that, the Ayatollahs were in public saying that no, they hadn't said that to Trump at all, and that they were going to go ahead with the executions. And still Trump didn't move. And now he's saying that the Ayatollahs are open to negotiations or some bullshit like that, and whatever it takes to not move. All of that is public. It's Trump's statements.
Okay. when you're ready for the answer.
I am.
One of the most fascinating children's books you can read is a French book named The Little Prince. In the book, there's a piece of wisdom that all important things are invisible. I haven't served in the intelligence community, having been associated with that community for close to 2 decades and a half now. I would wipe my shoes with everything you see in the media. And I would definitely not take any public statements by any politician seriously, because it's one of the tools used to push the policy.
Fine, but Trump hasn't moved against the Iranians. He hasn't done it. And he did stop
you want my answer? You want my answer, right? In the 12-day war, okay, first of all, the hit, and I can hold responsible for that, was authorized by Trump. And the American aerial system and this whole air war system in the region was involved big time in both Qatar and Jordan. I'm giving you very, very, very private information here. You know, stuff you wouldn't find in the media. The Americans were fully involved. The Iranian nuclear program was heavily damaged. I'm not at liberty to say why the uranium wasn't gone, but I'll say the program needs to rebuild right now. It's not functional like it used to be at all. Two, when Iran responded with this is the nasty surprise that Iran had in store for both Trump and Israel, they started using ballistic missiles. Ballistic missiles, for those who do not know what the word means, they are missiles you shoot into outer space. So they're very hard to intercept. And they fall exactly like free fall very fast into the targets from outer space. So putting them down is very, very hard. The Israelis had then the only ones who can drop those missiles down are the Americans with a program, with a system called the THAAD system, T-H-A-A-D, T-H-A-A-D. It could intercept them using satellites, and it could intercept them, but the problem is that the Iranians were shot up to 600 rockets in the first 2 days, when Israel had only 2 American systems operating inside the country. Right now, this is what you won't see in the media, or even if you see it in the media, people would not pay attention. Trump has increased the number to 7 systems, and just yesterday, an 8th system arrived into Israel. So Israeli skies are now fully ready. The reason the war stopped, and I'm not at liberty to speak on behalf of the Israelis, that also the Israelis wanted it to stop because they never realized China, who controls Iran, I repeat, China, who controls Iran and has given them the ballistic missile system, would actually allow this kind of confrontation, shooting hundreds of rockets. China proved that it has the guts to actually stand off to Israel when it comes to Iran, which nobody saw coming. My information, and I have Israeli friends in the army, Israeli friends elsewhere, and they told me that it was a mutual thing that the Israelis didn't want it to continue. The concept you say that Joe was beating Moshe or extra, it was not the case in my opinion. Now, what's happening right now with Iran? First of all, this is absolute typical Iranian noshkite or nonsense. The Iranians have been negotiating since day one. I have my information. I can't say a lot of the things I know. And people who know me closely, anyone worth their salt, they would know exactly who my connections can be. And
okay, so give us your prediction. Give us your prediction for Iran. What do you think is going to happen? You don't have to
I don't care for the protections as much as what Trump wants. What's he really working on?
Okay.
First of all, the Iranians are negotiating since day one, despite their lies saying that they're not. They have been negotiating and begging, and they've made a lot of concessions. These concessions were the following. One, they offered to totally stop the nuclear program and offer American and Western monitors to make sure that the nuclear program turns into a civil program. They've offered to, quote unquote, introduce some democracy into Iran, even allowing people like Rajawi, the head of Mujahideen Khalq opposition, to come and take off, some jobs for herself. They've also promised that they're going to stop financing Hezbollah. They promised that they're going to stop controlling the government of Iraq, which they fully control thanks to George W. Bush. They promised one thing, and eventually the biggest problem was the ballistic missiles, because the Americans are telling them through the Russian intermediary, they're telling them that you can't keep those ballistic missiles. These are very dangerous to our bases, very dangerous to Israel. So they refused to let go of the ballistic missiles. Then there was more threats when they saw more American aircraft carrier, the second one arriving, and then more ships arriving. The buildup is unprecedented even since the second Gulf War. So they got a little spooked, and they did something else, which is they offered that they would negotiate the missiles, but there's one thing they will never negotiate. And this is what this whole thing is about, sir. Chinese presence. The Iranians are refusing to let go of Chinese presence because the Chinese masters have been controlling the Middle East, one country after another. And Iran is the jewel of the crown. They've lost Venezuela. When Maduro was arrested, 5 hours prior to his arrest, he was with a Chinese delegation in his mansion, and he was scooped out by the special forces, and the Chinese couldn't do anything for him. The same goes for the Iranians. Iran is China. The ballistic missiles shot at Israeli civilians, killing them in their bedrooms, were all operated by Chinese engineers. The technology, nuclear technology, were done 9% of Iranian orders sold to China. China is like this dragon that's in hiding. It's like a Hessless dragon that doesn't even Hess. This is what Trump is dealing with. He's not concerned with those stupid Iranian regime. And I hate to say this, there's not much that could have been done for the civilians protesting in Iran. If Trump was trying to just appease Iran or let Iran go, he would have not threatened, literally threatened Arab regimes aligned with Iran, that unless they play ball, there's going to be hell to pay. I'll give you an example. Jordan's king in December of 2024, he banned U.S. fighters from U.S. Air assets from using Jordanian airspace. This is a problem because since 1981, Jordan has been Americans' dry, aircraft carrier for peanuts. So he stopped that. So the Americans and de facto the Israelis lost the air superiority when it comes to the Middle East. And he kept that, and he was offered $4.5 billion by the Biden administration to change his mind, and he refused. And he said it that, well, I don't need your $4.5 billion. China has given me $12 billion, believe it or not. Trump came, and now the king, with his tail between his legs, he had to do what the Americans are doing. Now, American air assets are in Jordan. Jordan couldn't say no. United Arab Emirates had to stop its honeymoon with Iran. Qatar had to shut up and stop appeasing Iran in Al Jazeera and stop cooperating with Iran. And Kuwait now, which remains one of Iran's sweethearts, Kuwait now is very careful about Iran. This is what you won't see in the news. One thing you can blame Trump for, you can blame him for his rhetoric that he says, I'm going to do this and do that. I think it's the way the man does things. He his key tactic is diversion. You can hate him or love him for that. But all I know is if Trump wasn't serious about this whole thing, these very expensive marine assets and air assets, including the THAAD system, would not be all over the place.
Okay,
By the way, Trump moved the THAAD system, one of the very few ones in the world, was in United Arab Emirates. He relocated from United Arab Emirates into Israel.
So when Trump stops Israel in Lebanon, and when he stops Israel in Syria and recognizes the government of al-Jolani as the legitimate government of Syria, lifts sanctions, that's ISIS. ISIS is partially a creation of the Muslim Brotherhood. And when Trump sends weapons to the Lebanese armed forces, which of course end up in Hezbollah's hands, in your opinion, he is fighting the Muslim Brotherhood and he is fighting jihadism? Because to me, that looks like he's supporting jihadism.
Okay, we can speak about Syria first. Syria, it's, unfortunately, we have to deal with the fruit of what the Biden administration did. Because it was Biden who presided over al-Jolani becoming the president out of nowhere in Syria.
Nope. That happened under Trump. That happened in 2025 under Donald Trump.
Okay, but in 2024, he was positioned exactly in the last month of
So what? The Israeli Defense Forces were advancing in Syria. They would have joined with the Rojava Kurds in the north, who are Democrats, who are libertarians, who want to have a democratic Syria, who protect all of the minorities, who emancipated women in the entire area that they ended up liberating. They're the ones who defeated ISIS in Syria. And if the IDF had continued to move up north with the supported by the Druze in the south, they could have created a democratic Syria with the Rojava Kurds and the Druze as allies. And Trump stopped that. And then he recognized al-Jolani, who is ISIS, as the new government of Syria. Why did he do that if he's fighting jihadism?
Because there's one thing about al-Jolani. Because, first of all, he was established and he was given the keys to every organization under Biden. So when Trump came, he found this guy already controlling.
No, but that doesn't answer the question. Why not let the Israelis win? If they are beating the crap out of the jihadis, and Trump is supposedly fighting jihadism, and if Trump is supposedly an ally of Israel, why not just keep its mouth shut?
Let me ask you this question. You are absolutely convinced that the Israelis wanted to continue all the way, because my Israeli contacts suggest otherwise, because I was. I'll tell you.
If the Israelis didn't want to...
I'll share a secret with you. I'll share a secret with you. Okay? I was in Al-Qunaitira, the Syrian area occupied by Israel. I was in Al-Qunaitira 3 days prior to Assad's demise. When he, and I have pictures in there. And I had, an Israeli friend. I wouldn't say what he does or who he is. And he gives me a look and he says, "Mudar, do you see this?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "This is going to go up in flames very soon." And I didn't know what he meant. And a few days after, this Assad was gone and this whole fiasco began. Okay, problems. The biggest problem that, first of all, I'm not personally convinced that Israel wanted to go all the way. My understanding from both Washington and Jerusalem contacts that they wanted to occupy areas which would make it impossible for the jihadis to move closer to Israel, and they still occupy it. They said, and they destroyed all the Syrian army assets, especially air assets and missiles.
No, they didn't. Trump stopped them from bombing those assets. Trump required the Israelis to stop bombing those assets, to negotiate with al-Jolani, to recognize al-Jolani, and they stopped the Israelis from joining with the Rojava Kurds in the north.
That's, by the way, the fact that he forced the negotiations.
It's all public.
No, the fact that he forced the negotiations between them and forced the current understanding is absolutely Trump, and it absolutely was commissioned by Ambassador Barack. So you could disagree with him in that one, but he did that, and I will say openly that he has. All right.
So, well, look, listen. This has been very interesting. We're actually out of time, but I'm going to be very happy to continue this conversation with you later, because it's fascinating to hear what the Jordanian opposition has to say. And I found very interesting your claim that the Muslim Brotherhood is strongest in Jordan. I'm going to start looking into that because I think that's actually very important for everybody to know. So later, if you can direct us to different kinds of documents and sources that we can look at.
That's the easy part.
Excellent.
You need to message me or email.
I will. I will.
You know, let's if you wish, if you find you and your audience, if you find it interesting, let's do more of this. Let's do a couple more episodes.
Yeah.
Let's discuss, because you know, I am here claiming to have information which you can't read in the news.
Right.
So let's see how much of it checks out. Okay.
Fantastic.
Let's do it.
I love that. And we can compare our models and then see what happens. I love it. I love it. So please, Dr. Mudar Sakhran, we would like to welcome you back for a later interview. And in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us, and please keep up the good work.
Thank you. Shukra, Habibi. Laila Tov.